Today on the show, you and I discuss Brexit and how it affects us, plus controlling the narrative with Big Macs.
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So, I have to tell you, it wasn't especially adventurous. It wasn't like I was headed off to some far-flung corner of the earth. It wasn't uninhabited. It wasn't uncivilized. It had all the modern conveniences. Most of the people spoke English, and American dollars spent just fine. But still, I was reminded of the importance of getting out into the world. This past week just gone by, when I took a little break for a few days to go see some friends get married in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Yeah, I know. Like I said, not especially adventurous. Just south of where most people go on spring break in Cancun. But as the great Henry Rollins once said, if you want to know, you've got to go. As Chuck D said when we talked to him in the run-up to the election, the best thing you can do is get yourself a passport. One of the best things you can do for yourself and for the world is to get out into it. Experience things, places, cultures, customs, people that you are not. And I was really lucky to go to this wedding for a number of different reasons. But I was like, why Playa del Carmen? Why this? And they're like, well, here's the thing. We have friends from all over the world. We have friends coming in from Colombia. We have friends coming in from Spain. We have friends coming in from Italy. We've got friends coming in from Canada. We've got friends coming in from Ireland. We've got friends coming into this wedding from all over the world. And this is a really easy airport for everybody to fly into. I was like, so there's no sort of like romantic attraction to Playa del Carmen. And they're like, no, we've never been here. This was just to make it easy for everybody to get here. But as it turns out, it was absolutely beautiful. And you know what? It's interesting. I've spent the vast majority of my time in America in three places: New York, Texas, and California. Texas and California, awfully close to Mexico. Yet for whatever reason, I'd never been. I don't know why I'd never been. It wasn't on purpose. It was just, I'd never been. And like I said, this is not some adventurous excursion that I took. This is not something where I feel brave and globetrottery and world travel-y. But it was a reminder to me that it's really important to meet people that are different from you. You and I talk about this all the time on the show. But the one thing prejudice doesn't stand up to is contact. If you have a neighbor and they voted differently than you, but they loaned you their lawnmower, or they're kind of hot, and you would like to get to know them better because you are rather attracted to them, well, you're going to have a harder time hating them for their politics, or for their nationality, or for their color of skin, or whatever stupid reason one human finds to hate another human being. If you meet them, if you talk to them, there's every possibility that you're going to go, it's just a person. Nice person. Trying to make their way in the world. And so, like I said, if you want to know, you've got to go. And I was thinking about this. It's not the luxury of money that's holding us up a lot of the time. I posted, this is really great. My cousin got me hot sauce for Christmas. Delicious. It was the habanero sauce of Belize, I believe it was called. It was unbelievably delicious. Yeah. And I posted some of it on Instagram. And this friend of mine was like, hey, I bring back bottles of that stuff from Belize every time I go. I was like, really? Because I get mine on Amazon. Your way of getting it sounds better. I'm like, well, you should go to Belize. It's a $200 ticket from Houston to Belize. I'm in Houston an awful lot. $200 ticket. I was looking at some of the hotel prices in Belize. Unbelievably cheap. What's stopping me from going? Not money. I mean, I'm not rolling in it, but every once in a while I could afford a $200 plane ticket and a $100 hotel room. No, what's stopping me from going? It's not the luxury of money. It's what's stopping most people from going. It's the luxury of time. And you know, we live a certain way in America. I love America. I love the fact that America is built on hard work. I love the fact that in all the cities where this show airs, I know I'm speaking to people that grind away every single day. I know this about you. You work hard. You work hard to give the best that you can to the people that matter the most. And not only that, you make a tremendous contribution to our little world and keeping it turning. And I think that's fantastic. And I say thank you for everything that you do. But it's not the luxury of money that stops us from going places and experiencing things. It's not the luxury of money that stops us from breaking out of our bubble 9 times out of 10. It's the luxury of time. I read an article in the New York Times a couple days ago. What was it called? I think it was called The Death of the Sick Day. Nowadays, they don't call them sick days anymore. They call them emergency days. Nowadays, you don't say you're sick. You just say, I'm working from home. The vast majority of people never really take the time off that's coming to them, whether it's sick days or whether it's vacation days. I've got so many unused vacation days accrued. And you know what? To take my vacation, my 3 days of vacation, I took 3 days of vacation and they backed up onto a weekend. And to do that, I left on, trying to remember the day. I left on Thursday. And I got back on Sunday. Yes, I got back late Monday night. To do this, I had to stay up for like 24 straight hours. I didn't go to bed Wednesday night. I just worked and cut commercials and cut liners and cut spots and all the things that a radio person has to do. And got straight on a plane. Kind of dozed a little bit here and there. Passed out in the hotel room when I got there. And when I got back late Monday night, I had stuff to do. I had a long pile of emails. People screaming at me because they needed stuff. And I'm not saying this because I feel sorry for myself. I know I'm saying this because it's becoming the norm. I got back late last night and I stayed up till about 5 a.m, finishing everything off. I work around a 16-hour day every single day. It's not the luxury of money, it's the luxury of time. And that's really too bad because it is stopping us, like I said, from getting out into the world. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't have the answer. But you, me, all of us, he says, feeling all high-minded because he went to Mexico for a couple days. We need to find a way. We need to find a way to get out into the world, to meet people that are different from us, to experience things that we haven't experienced before. It's vital for us as a country. It's vital for us as a planet.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So yeah, it sounds silly. I'm not some intrepid explorer. I'm not some globe-trotting world traveler. I would like to be. I have been in the past when I was in a band, but I was reminded of how important it is to experience things that are different from you when I went to Mexico this past weekend, just gone by, and went to a wedding that was actually attended from people from all over. I thought I was pretty cool for flying into Mexico for my friend's wedding. I mean, I spent like 6 hours in a plane. And then I got there and realized it paled in comparison when I saw people there from Dublin, saw people there from Italy, saw people there from Spain. I was like, wow, people really got here for these folks. That's an awesome thing. It was really, really cool. It was great. It was a beautiful thing to be involved in. Reminded me of how great love and partnership is. Reminded me of how important friendships are. And it reminded me, like I said, how one of the best things you can do for the world is to get out into it. And not only was I lucky to attend, not only was I glad that I went, not only was it great to see all of these qualities on display, But also I felt tremendously lucky that it was sort of a bit of an international gathering, because it was a further reminder to me, like, oh man, there's this whole big, interesting, different world out there that we sometimes lose sight of. You, me, all of us. In America, we live in a world that's based on hard work. And there's nothing wrong with that. And as a person that routinely works a 16, 17-hour day, I clearly don't have a problem with it. But I realize sometimes that it puts blinders on. I mean, here, I think it's actually a detriment to what I do on the radio sometimes, that I work so much. Because when I do have a chance to get out into the world, when I go to a museum, when I go to a wedding in a different country, when I get out and experience life, I feel like I've got a whole lot more to talk to you about. When I sit in a room talking into a microphone for hours and hours and hours on end, cutting liners and commercials and being on the air on like 25 stations and all that stuff, it's great. It's a fun job. Don't get me wrong. I love what I do. I feel very privileged to do it. And that's probably why I work so hard to keep doing it. But it doesn't make me the most relatable individual in the world. You know? If I say to you, hey, you ever notice that when you're driving, sometimes you put your right blinker on and the person that's just to the right of you speeds up because they're a total jerk and they hate their life and they decide they're going to stick it to you and cause you to miss the exit? What I've discovered is what you do is you put on your blinker a long time before your exit comes up. Let them be a jerk and then just slide behind them. That works great. Well, you can understand that. But you know what that is? That's my experience of being out in the world 9 days out of 10. My commute. If I say to you, hey, you know when you're sitting in a studio talking into a microphone, cutting all these different liners for all these different radio stations? No, you don't know that. There's a narrow handful of radio professionals that have to deal with that tedium that can relate to it. But you and I have more to talk about if I get out into the world. I mean, I read a lot. That helps. But if you're experiencing, do you see what I'm getting at here? If you're experiencing life, you got bonds, you've got common ground with people. You're making the world a better place. You're making it so that it's easier to understand one another. And I'm a bit of a hermit. I like to stay home. I like to stay in. But America, I love our work ethic. I love the fact that we believe in elbow grease. I love the fact that we believe that with hard work, anything is possible. That's not the same all over the rest of the world. In England, there's still the remnants of class warfare. Either you come from an upper crusty segment of society and you're allowed to make the money and have the success, or you don't and you're not. That's still, in some people's minds, the mode of thinking. In America, doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, it's a land of freaking opportunity, and if you're willing to grind, if you're willing to get in there and work harder than the person sitting next to you, you can be king of the freaking world, whatever that world is, in a matter of years. It's a beautiful, amazing thing, and I would never, ever want us to lose sight of that. But with the death of the sick day, with people having all these unused vacation days, with people living this very, very narrow life that we're forced to, because we as Americans are working hard every single day. We're worried about healthcare. We're worried about paying for our house, our car, our kids, their education, their future, all of the above. We're missing out on some things that could be really good for us, make us really happy, make us feel safe, make us feel like we understand the world, and give us our sense of independence back. We're all, in some way, shape, or form, for the most part, on the hamster wheel, running and running and running and running, and not experiencing life around us. Not enough, anyway. And you know what? When you don't experience the life, you don't see it. What you don't know, what you don't see, what you don't lay your own two eyes on, that becomes the unknown. That becomes the unfamiliar. And that can become scary. And as soon as there's fear, it can be exploited. It can be exploited by politicians. It can be exploited by people that would seek to divide you from your money. Say, oh, you're scared of that? Good, you should be scared. That is scary. However, I'm going to need you to dig deep when I pass the collection plate. I'm going to need you to dig deep when I pass the campaign finance bucket. And I'll deal with that thing that you're scared of. You just keep your head down and keep working. Fortunately, I'm here to save you from that which you've never seen before. And you know what? If you saw it, you probably wouldn't be scared, and that would take away some of their power and give some of ours back. Is this making sense to you? So I don't know what the solution is. You're saying to me, AD, I got to work. I've got kids. I've got a house. I've got a car note. I've got all... Yeah. Yep. I don't have kids, but I have all the responsibilities. I have the work day that is the typical American long work day. It's all for the same company. It's all under the same umbrella, but I work about 5 or 6 different jobs in one way, shape, or form. One way, shape, or form of another, whatever the case may be. I work a lot. I get it. I understand. I am so guilty of this and I don't have the solution, but let's maybe make it a goal to experience things that are different from us, to meet people that are different from us, to try and greet the experience of something that is not us with open arms. It was interesting. I was caught in a rainstorm. It was torrentially raining the last day I was there. And so I wound up in this little cafe seeking shelter, as were the few people there. And because the rain wouldn't let up, well, we just kept ordering more food and coffee. And I'm sitting across from 2 Australian guys, and we get chatting, and I was like, can I ask you a question about being Australian? They're like, yeah, sure. I was like, wherever I go, especially growing up in London, I run into Australians. Like, Australia's not close. You're here in Mexico. What are you doing here? Why do Australians seem so well-traveled? And they're like, we do get out into the world. Yeah, it's kind of true. I was like, why is that? Because I think Americans would like to, but we don't. What makes you and us different? And they're like, well, it's mandatory that we have 5 weeks of vacation a year, and we must take it. And this one guy was like, my boss told me, hey, you got vacation that you haven't used yet, and you have to use it or the company could get in trouble. So take it. And he was like, whoa, a friend of mine's getting married in a different part of Mexico, and if I'm coming halfway around the world and I have, 2.5 weeks of vacation to use, I should probably see some of it. I was like, you legally must take 5 weeks of vacation? He was like, yeah, it's mandatory. And in some countries, it's mandatory that you take those 5-6 weeks of vacation like you have in some Scandinavian countries. 2 of those weeks must be consecutive. And these Australian guys said the only bummer of that is, I was like, what's that? He's like, we run into Australians all over the place. And you know what? You're there to meet people that are different from you. So it kind of sucks to run into Australians everywhere you want to go. I was like, wow, what a different attitude. What a healthy attitude. Travel the world and you're disappointed when you find something that's the same as you. I left feeling inspired, as I hope you do from this conversation.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
So have you been following what's been going on with Brexit at the moment? Now, this is an interesting one because I think that it's an interesting barometer for the rest of the world. Now, we live in difficult times. We live in times where people are not eager to get on the same page. We live in times of great divide. People keep saying, oh, the world has never been like this. America is so divided. Countries across the world are divided. It seems like all these nations are on the brink of a civil war. Did you see the violence that erupted in France a little while ago? Yeah. So we live in these scary and difficult and uncertain and highly polarized times. And a lot of people are worried, going, I don't know if there's ever going to be any end in sight. It's the internet. It's immigrants. It's the fact that people don't accept immigrants and refugees. It's the fact that people don't have love in their hearts. It's the fact that people are trying to come to our country and take our stuff and take our jobs and other Fear, fear, fear. Hate, hate, hate. Division, division, division. Pretty extreme on whatever side of whatever argument you choose to discuss. And a lot of people look at me and go, you're a lot more calm about this stuff than a lot of other people on the radio. And yeah, there's a reason. First and foremost, a lot of people that would tell you that the sky has fallen are doing so because there's big, big dollars in telling you that the sky is falling. There's big dollars in fear-mongering. There's big dollars in division, or pounds, or rubles, or pesos, or whatever the hell people are trying to cash in on. There's massive money in division. There's massive money in fear. I'm going to tell you why you need to be scared of this right after this message. Yeah. And you know what? I'll never drive as nice of a car as any of those people. I'll never live in that big of a house. But I just can't lower myself or insult you enough to pander in that way. Yeah, things are difficult. Things are tough now. But you know what? If you zoom out, this might be the most divided you remember us being in your lifetime, in my lifetime. But had you been around after the Great Depression, had you been around in Germany after they lost the First World War, you would have seen something very similar. After there's an economic downturn, politically, people are divided. People have lost their homes, their jobs, their cars, their whatever. People have experienced loss of security. People have experienced scarcity. People are looking for something or someone to blame. And usually, some sort of political opposition, generally in your own country, is in the crosshairs. Had everybody had a few more zeros at the end of the dollar amount in their checking account, we'd be in a very different place in the last 5-10 years. But you know what? We're coming out of the greatest economic downturn since the Great Depression. We still are. And people are still operating from a place of fear and blame. And I suppose the reason I don't get that bent out of shape about it is, as much as it's discouraging to see people being hateful and fearful on a regular basis, if you look at history, you know there will be a correction. People will calm the hell down eventually. I would like it if they did it sooner rather than later. I abhor the people that are cashing in on it. But people, if you look at history, do the same things over and over again. We don't learn a whole lot from history's lessons. But if you look back, you can maybe get some peace from realizing that it really is, as the song said, all just a little bit of history repeating. Economic downturn, massive political division, fear, 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 hate, hate, hate. Eventually, people make a little bit more cash. Things settle down a little bit. People are content. They're not looking around for people to blame. And we're kind of a little bit more chill. I mean, we're still going to have our skirmishes and squabbles, of course. That is part of our political process in the free world. But we're going to go through life in a little bit more of a calm manner. It's coming. Like I said, hopefully sooner rather than later. But I suppose maybe that's why I don't get as bent out of shape about it as other media personalities, radio hosts, talk radio folks, cable news people. CNN have made vast sums of money since Donald Trump became president. And they're not looking for that to go away anytime soon. They've got, buckets of cash coming in. And plenty. They've got buckets of cash coming in and plenty of new toys that they bought they have to keep continuing to pay for. And I would imagine Fox News and all those folks are doing very well off of this. So they're in no hurry to see it slow down anytime soon. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Brexit, because Brexit was unthinkable when it happened. In much the same way that Donald Trump was unthinkable when he happened. Now, if you're a Donald Trump supporter, I'm not knocking your vote. I'm not knocking your guy. I'm just saying that Donald Trump had floated the idea of being president for many years beforehand, and he was unceremoniously laughed out of the room, and I think even he realized at the time it was a joke. But things changed, and then the unimaginable happened. It got serious. And then something that was the punchline to a joke for the past 10 or so years became the reality. And it's because people were a little bit desperate. They knew they were uncomfortable with the status quo. They wanted change. They wanted it now. Same with Brexit. Brexit was this unthinkable, unimaginable thing, this radical, starry-eyed idea that had been floated by people for years. We don't do well out of the EU deal. We need to get out. We're being taken advantage of. It's a horrible deal. Sucks to be England during all this. But are we really going to get out of it? No, we're just talking about it. I mean, that's crazy. Let's put it to a vote. Even Nigel Farage, one of the masterminds of Brexit, was kind of surprised it happened. He was like, oh, damn. I was just having fun getting on TV and, well, basically on a book tour, basically sort of raising my social media stock, basically sort of becoming a pundit, a personality, basically upping my price at speaking engagements, and it happened? Okay. Did not see that one coming. Even Nigel Farage was sort of shocked that it happened. And what happened when it happened? Well, the economy of England did not do well. The pound plummeted. People lost their freaking shirts. People saw their retirements dwindle away. And that same fear of financial scarcity, of certainty, that same fear of lack of certainty crept back in. And so now, here we are. British lawmakers have totally and utterly rejected Theresa May's Brexit deal. And you know what? It's historic. It is the biggest defeat for any UK government in the modern era. Why do I bring this up? What does this have to do with America? Well, it's interesting because the supporters of Brexit thought this exit deal was giving too much to the European Union. They're like, wow, we're getting effed just as hard getting out of this thing as we were in it. Might as well stay in it and enjoy the benefits, limited though they may be, of Brexit. And then the people that were anti-Brexit were anti-Brexit. So pro-Brexit people thought it was too patty cake with the European Union. Anti-Brexit people just wanted nothing to do with it. So it got smacked down and smacked down hard. When the grim reality of the extremism that caused Brexit to happen in the first place started to sink in, it became, I think, a little bit more clear that, oh man, this is not going to get us the change, the hope and change, those vague nebulous qualities. This is not going to get us more. This is not going to get us more of a sense of security. This is not going to get us more of a sense of stability. This won't take away the gnawing worry we've been experiencing in the pit of our stomach anytime soon. If there's any financial benefit to be had by this, it's going to be had by our grandchildren. And right now, we're trying to pay some bills, and this isn't maybe working out as well as we thought. And maybe we should just take a step back, take a beat, take a breath, smack down Theresa May's Brexit deal, and figure out what's going on. So that Brexit deal, I mean, look, this is a live situation. This could change. By the time you hear this might have changed. But that Brexit deal is essentially dead. And it looks as though Brexit as a whole may be dead. Meanwhile, people have panicked and lost money and realized that massive extreme measures like this can be hard on the wallet and the sense of stability that you craved in the first place when you voted for it. I'm not trying to reduce humans to a worship of money, but that's a lot to do with it. And so as people are starting to realize that extremism isn't maybe as comfortable and is not going to get you the instant results that they thought it would when they were participating in it, they start to pull back. They start to settle down. And that's why the Brexit deal, being on the verge of death, I think is good for all of us. It means that the world as a whole is starting to settle down. Hang in there. You got this.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Alrighty then, with the time you and I have left, let's you and I get into the events of today in our segment, My Witness News. Sure, why not? Let's start with this one. Did you hear about this female thief who hid 4 Rolex watches in a extraordinarily private spot? 29-year-old woman in Miami recently met a guy at a club, went back to his hotel, and then took off with 5 Rolex watches he owned, worth over $100,000, which is very impressive that the guy rolls around with 5 different Rolexes. Police recovered one of them when they arrested her, but they didn't find the other 4 until they got her to jail and took her through a metal detector. Turned out she was hiding them in a highly intimate area. And with great pleasure, I now present to you audio from her bond hearing. Check this out.
Brought the defendant back to the room, went to use the bathroom, and when he came out, he noticed that his Crown Royal bag containing 5 high luxury watches valued at $108,000 were missing. Questioned the defendant about the missing bag, and the defendant opened the hotel door and ran out. She was subsequently taken into custody. And in the course of taking the defendant into custody, when she was being processed, the watch was secreted in the area.
Generally speaking, when we talk about killing someone with kindness, it's the right thing to do. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but killing someone with kindness tends to be the right thing to do. Turn the other cheek. However, in this case, not so much. Did you see a 30-year-old man in Florida, a guy called Brian Stewart, is facing charges after he got into it with his neighbor last week and he threatened to kill him with kindness, which, as it turns out, is the name of his knife.
According to investigators, Brian Stewart was arrested after threatening to kill his neighbor with kindness. Kindness is the word written on a machete owned by Stewart. The Pensacola News-Journal says Milton cut the man with a machete. The victim suffered a half-inch cut on his hand.
So, I kind of feel as though I have to bring this up really quickly. Generally speaking, if you've listened to the show for any length of time, chances are you're like me. You're not necessarily fond of the herd mentality. And, well, a guy in my position who does a show every single day that is not fond of the herd mentality doesn't like to talk about the same things that everybody else is talking about. I'm of the opinion that I like to be the cooler head that prevails. People will be screaming, shouting, yelling at each other about whatever the hell the issue of the day is, and I like to take a beat, step back, and maybe, if it's really important, we'll talk about it. But if everybody is yammering on about it, I don't feel as though you and I need to. Do you? No, is the general answer. But I did want to weigh in a little bit on this. Only because I think there's one very important thing that a lot of people are missing. The Clemson Tigers visited the White House the other night since they beat Alabama and won the national championship last week. And Donald Trump, as we all know now, bought them, quote, McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King's with some pizza because, quote, I would think that's their favorite food. He paid for it himself because of the government shutdown.
The Clemson championship team, the national championship team, will be coming tonight. It'll be exciting. A very great team, an unbelievable team. And I think we're going to serve McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King's with some pizza. I really mean it. It'll be interesting. And I would think that's their favorite food. So we'll see what happens. But they're coming tonight, the national champions, subject to the weather.
So if you are one of the people screaming about how this was a classless, idiotic move, that this was something that just showed what a laughingstock America has become and will remain as long as Donald Trump keeps doing and saying things like this, if you are one of the people that said other folks respected the office of the president and this is so beneath that, and blah, 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 I get it. I do. I understand. But Donald Trump knew exactly what he was doing when he did this. And I think this is part of the problem, not only on the side of the left, but on the side of the right. Here's the thing, though. I think that the left tends to be guilty of intellectual and moral elitism every now and then. I think the left likes to assume the moral high ground, the intellectual high ground, the high ground of dignity. And Well, where you fall down is by saying that Donald Trump, in serving fast food to Clemson, was an idiot. Did it look boneheaded to us and the rest of the world? Sure, absolutely, I understand. But here's the thing. Like I said, Donald Trump knew exactly what he was doing. Donald Trump knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that he would be exciting his base. Look, Donald Trump paid for all this food out of his own pocket. And you know what? It's normal food for normal people. These are college kids. Of course they like burgers and fries and pizza, McDonald's and Wendy's. And oh man, what a man of the people that guy is. He's showing you can be thrifty and still have an excellent time. He's showing that you can cater a party and it doesn't have to be an elitist, snobby party. He is one of us. He is a man of the people. That's the food he eats. Why wouldn't he serve it to these athletes? People saying, these are elite athletes. There's no way they would eat that, and it's so undignified and so unbecoming, and it's making us look like morons and fatzos and people ready to die of heart disease on a world stage. What the hell is he doing? I'll tell you exactly what he's doing. He's appealing to his base. He's reigniting his base in the run-up for 2020. And most importantly, he's causing people to talk about him. Causing people to talk about exactly what he wants you to talk about. It is Donald Trump controlling the narrative, knowing he would set the cat amongst the pigeons by putting out Big Macs and fillets o' fish. It was a masterful move on his part. I know everyone wants to dismiss him as an idiot. Everyone on the left wants to say, we've got the moral high ground. We've got the intellectual high ground. This is a move by a deplorable who doesn't respect America. No, this is the move of a man who is an expert at controlling the narrative. A lot of people say he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. I agree. There are some unbelievably haphazard things that have happened. But a big part of Donald Trump's success, whether you love him or hate him, is his ability to control the narrative. It's the same thing that he did during the debates. Wrong. Lies. What a nasty woman. Little Marco, crooked Hillary, lying Ted Cruz. Nobody ever talked like this in this world before. And the other people were out of their depth. They didn't know what they could do. And they all fell one by one. Because why? Because of Donald Trump's ability to control the narrative. So if you have a problem with it, if you don't like it, the best thing you could do to fight against it is just dismiss it. Whatever. No point in talking about it. And I've seen people struggle with this. Like, did you see the thing he did? No. I don't want to talk about it. Did you see? But I just have to say, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to give him the attention. I don't want to give him what. But did you see that? Controlling the narrative. Controlling your narrative. I think that's the only thing I wanted to say about it. Was it right or wrong or crazy or unbecoming or beneath the office of the president to do this? I don't think that's the discussion. I think the discussion is, if you really have a problem with it, how are you going to learn to not react to it and give him exactly what he wants? Hey, look, there went the day. Thank you so much for hanging. Thank you for being a part of my radio family. As always, this time that you and I spend together, it's the best part of my day every single day. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll do this all over again. Later.